On March 20th of 2010, Sarah Colwill of Plymouth went to bed with a severe migraine headache. She had been dealing with these for the past several years, but this time, it was different. When she woke up, the pain was so much more intense than usual, so much so that she had to call an ambulance. She had previously been diagnosed with a form of migraines that interrupts the blood flow in such a way that it causes stroke-like symptoms. So this was absolutely major cause for concern. And in this episode, doctors had actually determined that she had suffered several attacks at once. Without a doubt, she had experienced some amount of brain damage. But nobody could have expected the results of this brain damage. You see, when she woke up, she suddenly had a Chinese accent. Clearly, Pilgrim is becoming too powerful. For today's video, let's take a look at the woman who turned Chinese. This video is sponsored by Helix. Helix makes premium mattresses and bedding, custom fit to your needs and delivered right to your door. Everyone sleeps differently, so Helix has you take a sleep quiz to match your body type and sleep preferences. I'm a side sleeper, so Helix set me up with the Sunset mattress. This year, Helix launched their newest and most high-end collection yet, the Helix Elite mattress. They put their years of extensive mattress expertise to use to create a truly elevated sleep experience. The Helix Elite collection includes 6 different mattress models to combine high-end luxury with personalized comfort tailored to your preferences. Helix delivers your mattress right to your door with free shipping in the US. Comes rolled up in a box and it's easy to set up. And to make sure you love your Helix mattress, there's a 100 nights of sleep trial. You also get a 10-year warranty, as well as financing options and flexible payment plans. And Helix mattresses are fiberglass free. I've been sleeping on Helix mattresses for a few years now, and it's some of the best sleep I've gotten. And the Glaciotex upgrade I got ensures that I stay cool when I sleep. I love my Helix mattress, and I think you would too. Their President's Day sale is running right now, so it's a great time to upgrade your mattress. You can get 25% off your mattress as well as 2 free pillows. Just go to the Helix Sleep website for more details. Listen, not everyone's gonna agree with me, but personally, I love a good impression of a foreign accent.
Would you like me to park your car?
Maybe I'm immature or whatever, I don't know. I don't think it's a mean or hateful thing unless you make it that. That being said though, it's funny for a few minutes and you're like, alright, that's enough of that. But what if you just stuck like that? Forever. It sounds like the plot of a movie from the 70s where people would be like, oh, you couldn't make that nowadays. But for Sarah Colwill, this was reality. At that point, she was 35 years old and lived in Plymouth basically her whole life. She had never been to China before, and frankly just doesn't strike me as the kind of person that sits around doing accents as a bit. She had what's described as a strong Devon accent. I'm an American and I have no idea what that is. So I found this video from Magenta Otter Travels talking to some of the locals with Devon accents.
Every word has at least 4 R's in it, and every verb is regular. We be, they be, us be.
Where be that to?
Okay, so instead of saying, where is it, you would say,
where be that to?
In all honesty, I'm not sure that I could distinguish that from any other kind of British accent, but it's clearly a far cry from this.
It wasn't until I was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, she actually said, are you aware of the way you are speaking? And I said, oh, I sound like I have a slur. And she said, no, you sound like you can work at a Chinese restaurant.
About a month after the incident, she spoke to The Guardian about what she had been experiencing. I spoke to my stepdaughter on the phone from hospital, and I'm inclined to point out that when she says from hospital instead of from the hospital, I'm not sure if that's a typo or if that's how she actually said it. And she didn't recognize who I was. She said I sounded Chinese. Since then, I have had my friends hanging up on me because they think I'm a hoax caller. She also noted that even as the paramedics came to her home on the initial call, they remarked that she sounded Chinese. Normally, effects like this from a stroke would last up to 7 days. But because of the severity of the attack, it was unknown if she would ever get her original voice back. Colwill, who lives with her husband Patrick in Plymouth, added, the first few weeks of the accent was quite funny, but to think I am stuck with this Chinese accent is getting me down. My voice has started to annoy me now. It is not my voice. At that point, she had already begun working with a speech therapist, but she wasn't making much progress. And now, I imagine that a lot of you are having the same initial thought that I did. She's faking this. As soon as I heard this story, I immediately thought about that cheerleader who had that muscle disorder that turned out to be fake. Like they caught her red-handed. Wavy Web Surf actually covered that story years ago, and conveniently, he actually opens his video talking about what you would call such a thing. A factitious disorder.
Factitious disorders are conditions in which a person deliberately and consciously acts as if he or she has a physical or mental illness when he or she is not really sick.
That being said though, as much as waking up from a stroke with a Chinese accent sounds like God called up Nick Mullen and asked him to invent the disease, what this lady was experiencing is a real condition that's been documented as far back as 1907. It's called Foreign Accent Syndrome, or FAS, and it's extremely rare. I've seen total cases worldwide reported to be between 20 and 150, which at either end of that spectrum, that's not a lot of people. It almost always happens as the result of a stroke or some kind of brain injury, although there was a recent case in which a cancer patient developed an Irish accent. If you want some examples of the variety of accents people will wind up with, 60 Minutes Australia spoke to a few other people with this condition, including an Australian woman with an Eastern European accent.
Interesting that you perceive it that way, because I'm actually Australian.
And a British woman with a French accent.
When I heard my speech and the speech process in my head was totally different.
Around the time of the early coverage, Sarah had been contacted by Professor John Coleman, a phonetics expert who researches the condition and wanted to study her. He said this to The Guardian: FAS is extremely diverse and is almost certainly not caused by one thing. It is not a well-defined medical phenomenon and therefore not the kind of problem that there are any easy generalizations about. It's also important to note here that this isn't just some quirky, silly thing that happened and made her life full of all kinds of goofs and whatnot. She basically lost everything over this. When she first had the stroke-like incident, she was working as an IT coordinator. But in addition to how it changed her accent, these migraines, which would continue afterwards, gave her debilitating mobility issues, which would sometimes paralyze her entirely. This forced her to leave her job and eventually sell her house. In 2013, she would star in a BBC documentary entitled The Woman Who Woke Up Chinese, which follows her struggles to live with this bizarre condition. I was unable to find the full documentary, but there are clips floating around, including one where she meets with her speech therapist, Martin Duckworth, at Marjan's. Although she still has the accent, she says she feels more comfortable with it now. Maggie Cooper, Marjan's head of applied language sciences, says that although they can't give a definitive answer to why exactly this is happening, something happened in her brain that affects how she organizes her speech output. The documentary also answers one of the biggest questions I had about this condition. The answer is yes. People are constantly asking her to say pork fried rice. Like I said, I wasn't able to find the full documentary, but I was able to piece parts of it together from reviews. And according to Time Out, it's actually uncomfortable how much they have her order Chinese food in the documentary. And despite the apparent progress she was making in the documentary, in 2015 there was follow-up coverage by SWNS that revealed she had learned her condition was permanent, that all different kinds of treatments were attempted and none of them seemed to be doing anything. Being told I would be like this forever was a heartbreaking thing to hear. It was a real bombshell. But then surprisingly, she would speak to them again in 2016. Things had once again taken a turn, this time for the better. You see, in the previous 7 weeks before that article, she had actually been making a lot of progress, both with her mobility and with her speech. Because it's been so long, you learn like a child would. You listen to the people around you. It shows my brain is still learning. The physio said, I walk like a toddler, so she is now teaching me how to walk without holding on to things. So it's the same with my speech. The more I'm around people and pick up on how they speak, the more I learn. That has been quite hopeful for me. I'm learning all the time. After this article, which ends on a relatively hopeful note, you don't really hear much from her for several years. But then in 2022, she pops back up. That June, she would make a TikTok account. And on the 9th of June, she uploads this video.
Hello, this is my first TikTok. Many people ask for update on my condition, how I am now. As you can hear today, my speech is disturbed because I had many migraine the last 3 days with non-epileptic seizure. But pretty much now I sound English. Back to my normal accent. It is normally only disturbed, like sounding like this, and I struggle to find words when I've had particularly bad spate of migraine. I've also had facial paralysis and some left-sided weakness from the hemiplegia. But But yeah, I thought maybe TikTok would be a good place for post-update.
So here she's still talking with the accent, but she says it's because her migraines were acting up recently and she doesn't normally talk like that anymore. Something she demonstrated in a TikTok on June 11th, where for the first time we hear her actual voice.
So I thought I'd give you all a quick update. As the day's gone on, my speech and everything is starting to come back to normal. The migraines disappeared. And hopefully the next few days I'll be fully recovered.
In the following weeks, she would post TikToks of her both with and without the accent, as well as some clips of her pets. And in her bio, it says, "I didn't say I sounded Chinese, you did." Which, kind of does put things into a different perspective. Although at times she did refer to it as a Chinese accent herself, that was a description that was first given by everyone else around her. And although foreign accent syndrome is exceptionally rare, it's extremely common for strokes to affect people's speech. So it's quite possible that what's actually happening with this condition is you're getting people whose speech is affected physically by the stroke as with any other stroke, but in these cases it's manifesting in a way that sounds to us like an accent. It's not necessarily that her brain is saying, okay, do a Chinese accent. It's that what it's causing her to do sounds Chinese to us. It's hard to tell for sure, especially with so few cases that have been studied, and I'm sure a lot of you still think she's just really committed to the bit. But in any case, that's the story of the lady who turned Chinese. If you like this video, turn on notifications and check out my video about how a rage comic cured cancer. I'm out.